easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger, or brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Good morning and welcome to Unity of the Blue Ridge. It's good to be back this morning, and wow, it's good to have Richard back with us this morning. You're going to have the opportunity to hear from him. I want to thank Tia and Donna, who are in the back running things, and have someone that's going to join me a little bit later, Vern, this morning, so you get an opportunity to meet her. You know, I think we all realize that it's a very pivotal time in our country and a very painful time. The country in many ways feels more polarized and more galvanized than it certainly ever has in my lifetime. And to me, it's really, it's time, that it is time for us to live out really what we stand for, what this building stands for, and that is the divinity and the dignity that is inherent within all people. And so as we begin this morning, we light this candle for just that light that shines within all creation. And we dedicate this service to be a safe space, a healing space, a place and a consciousness of God and realizing that God is love. And so I invite you to join me this morning in an opening prayer. We give thanks this morning for a new day, for the realization that this incredible life energy that animates all creation, animates our very bodies, our very being. And this presence is best known as love. And we seek to be a great expression of what we are as the life of all that is. We dedicate this day to meeting the moment, and in particular to meet the moment and to live out the golden rule, what that looks like. And so for this sacred opportunity, this day together, we are so blessed and so grateful. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. I'm going to be talking about today what it means to meet the moment. How do we meet each moment living out the golden rule? And Richard, as I said earlier, it's so good to have Richard Schulman back with us. We're little by little bringing back band and singers, and we're currently scheduled to have some people attending the first Sunday in July. However, just stay posted because, as you know, the numbers for COVID are going back up, and so we do want to make sure that it is as safe as possible, but we are planning so that we're ready when it seems safe. But Richard, would you share with us this morning, Richard, actually, what is your particular, you grew up Jewish, correct?
That's correct.
How would you describe your spiritual practice?
My spiritual practice is eclectic, and it is as whenever I remember, which hopefully is all the time, a communion with God within myself and everywhere.
I love that. And I love the eclectic. I totally relate to that. I call myself a Metacostal, where metaphysics meets Pentecostal. Richard's going to share just a few. You know, the golden rule is found in every sacred tradition, and Richard's going to read just a few of those for us this morning.
In the Baha'i faith, lay not on any soul a load that you would not wish to be laid upon you, and desire not for anyone the things you would not desire for yourself. Buddhism, treat not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. Christianity, in everything, do to others as you would have them do to you, for this is the law and the prophets. Hinduism, this is the sum of duty. Do not unto others what you would not have them do unto you. Islam, not one of you truly believes until you wish for others what you wish for yourself. Judaism, what is hateful to you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. Go and learn it. The Native American Pima proverb, do not wrong or hate your neighbor, for it is not he who you wrong, but yourself. Taoism, regard your neighbor's gain as your own gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss.
Sums it up pretty well, what we call the golden rule. As a kid, I grew up listening to a group of singers called the Singing Rambos. Dottie Rambo wrote a beautiful song that said, "I go to the rock," and I'm going to share that with you this morning. Where do I go when I need some inspiration? Who do I turn to when I need someone to listen? Who do I lean on in a time of tribulation? I go to the rock with you beside me. I go to the rock. I go to the rock of my foundation, to the cornerstone of love. I give my all, and my all blesses me. When I look all around me and I need a hand, you take me to the rock, and there I stand. I can be a shelter, I can be a friend. I go to the rock. So where do you go when you need some inspiration? Where can you turn when you need someone to listen? Who do you lean on in your times of tribulation? You go to the rock. I am here with you. I am the rock. I go to the rock of my salvation. I go to the cornerstone of love. I give my all, and my all blesses me. When I look all around me and I need a hand, you take me to the rock, and here I stand. I can be your shelter, I can be a friend. I go to the rock. Play it, Richard. I can be your shelter, I can be a friend. Go to the rock. I can be a shelter, I can be a friend, because I go to the rock. I go to the rock. Wow. It is so good to have you back. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us this morning. Well, I really needed some time off and was able to take a little time away, but man, did it feel like everything just fell apart over the last few weeks. And I began to think about, 2020 has certainly not turned out like I expected. I don't really know what I expected, but I don't think any of us could have expected this. That to me, 2020 rings of vision, and not just vision, but 2020 is perfect vision. And last week, as I had some time to take extended walks and spend more time in prayer and meditation, thinking about 2020 and all that's going on, what dawned on me is when Jesus said, "Let your eye be single." He was talking about your third eye, that what really the life is about is opening up your spiritual eye. And today I want to talk about that how do we meet the moment by moment, and live out the golden rule. And this year of 2020 is about perfect vision, but it's about spiritual vision. If there's a cry of 2020, it is, "I can't breathe." And I want you to think about this just a minute, because just a few months ago, we began to hear of this thing called COVID-19. And within a short period of time, it has become a pandemic. And we began seeing these horrific pictures. I remember seeing New York and the Jacob Javits Center being turned into a 4,000-bed hospital. And seeing pictures of patients lying in the hallway, gasping for breath, a shortage of ventilators, and people saying, "I can't breathe." And then as that began to become a little bit of the norm, we've started living with that. And as we begin to leave our homes, we're asked, rightfully so, to wear a face mask, to have the courtesy to do our best to protect ourselves and others. And we begin to hear people rise up and say, "But I can't breathe with this thing on. I can't breathe." And then, of course, the horrific murder that we witnessed, George Floyd, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I can't breathe. And so I can't breathe easy today. And I know you can't either. And you know, the physical body, the physical constitution is not made to tolerate breathlessness. It's interesting that the word spirit and breath are one and the same. In Hawaii, there's a term called haole, and a lot of people think it means it's a term for the white person or the non-indigenous, but it's not. A haole is one that's not breathing, one that's not in unison with the spirit of life. That I can't breathe is a cry of our soul. I truly believe it's a spiritual cry that is saying, begin to see with the eyes of spirit, reveal what needs to be revealed, and to heal what needs to be healed. And so we want to look at what is this central teaching, the golden rule. When Jesus was asked of all the Hebrew laws, there were over 600 that people were supposed to remember. And they said, if you had to distill it down, what would it be? And he said very simply, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. It was love. To do unto others as we would have them do unto us. The power of love has never been called forth in my lifetime the way that it is being called forth. It's the rally cry. And it has warmed my heart to see people around the globe, to see people of all different shades and colors and backgrounds that are holding signs and taking to the street and standing up, speaking up, and showing up, which is what we must do. There's a way to go about it. But I truly believe that there comes a time when you have to say enough is enough. And I also believe that we've been prepared for this because we've been made vulnerable. This virus has made us more vulnerable. It has slowed us down. It has reminded us of our common connection. We watched Italy and the people of Italy from their homes as they begin to sing out. We've watched as this virus has gone from country to country and how we're all in the same ship, so to speak, or the same experience. Riding it out in different ways, but we're riding out the same storm in many ways. And so what we're really facing is a core wound of separation. And in our country, that core wound of separation is known as inequality. And so we're feeling right now the tension of transformation. And it's a messy job. You know, the caterpillar doesn't magically become the butterfly. The caterpillar has to go through the goo. We are going through the muck. We are going through the goo. But it is the tension of transformation that we are feeling. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, in a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality. Tied in a single garment of destiny, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. Jesus said it this way, what you have done to the least of these, you have done unto me. He told his disciples, he said, when I was in prison, why didn't you visit me? When I was hungry, why didn't you feed me? And they said, when were you in prison and when were you hungry? And he was making the point, what you've done unto the least of these, that whatever you do to them, you do to me. And I ask people today, if we saw the face of Christ or the face of whomever you deem as the most sacred, as Mother Teresa did, if we were to superimpose that face over every single person on the face of this earth, what would it call forth? What would it call out of us? And so without, getting caught up in the guilt or the blame, how do we walk that narrow path that takes a lot of work to keep ourselves untangled and yet actively engaged? Part of facing our truth is our country is dealing with a core wound, and even though I may not have personally done some of these things, and you may not have, it's just a fact that this country was built physically and economically on the back of enslaved people. And so this is about a 400 plus year sin, if you will, error that we're still needing to face and to sort out. So how do we meet the moment in the heaviness of that, in the pain of that? A first part of it is truly acknowledging it. Childbirth is not pretty. It's not without pain. And yet it brings forth something that is most precious and most pure and most beautiful. And it's the great paradox of being a spiritual human being. It's the paradox of being both. It's finding joy in the midst of sorrow. It's doing our best to walk the road of righteousness and justice and do what is right, and yet tend to the wound without becoming wounded. Tend to the inequities. Do the things that we can to bring about the change without becoming part of a problem. And I tell you, it's not easy work, and it requires some maturity. It requires spiritually calling ourselves higher, but that's what we were born to do. Audre Lorde said in a 1980 interview, she was a librarian, a writer, she became a civil rights activist. She said, as we get in touch with the things that feel intolerable in our lives, they become more and more intolerable. And this very vulnerable time has allowed some of us who haven't been awake enough to wake up and to get in touch. And in a sense, it's a beautiful thing that more people are getting in touch with what is intolerable. During the Civil War, there were a group of ministers at a prayer breakfast that met with Abraham Lincoln. And one of the ministers said, "Mr. President, let us pray that God is on our side." And it said that Abraham Lincoln stopped him and said, "No, sir. Let us pray that we are on God's side." And that really struck me. It's like, you know what? Let us pray that we are on God's side. It's been 2 or 3 years ago now, I woke up one morning and I kept seeing Be the Bridge, BRRIDGE, beyond racial and religious intolerance, discovering God everywhere, demonstrating good everywhere. And what it means to be that bridge is to be able to live with that tension, to acknowledge it, and to be that space that can stand and be present to this side and this side. It doesn't mean you have to agree with both or even either, but to really be that bridge, to seek to ever be learning and growing, and to be on the side of love, if there is even a side. And I think a part of what we're being called to do is really pay attention to the us versus them, the otherness. Because remember that the core illusion is separateness. And the core sin, if you will, of what we're dealing with right now is separateness. It's not believing and truly acting as if all are truly equal. And so it's within ourselves beginning to be mindful of the us versus them. You know, there's just so many ways right now, intentions of us versus them, us versus them. And I hope come November when everybody votes that, you know, we get over thinking about political parties and we start thinking about presence and policy and what is right, and that we all seek to do what is the right thing to do, what is the highest and best. And I know sometimes it's not a clear, you may not exactly have the outcome that you were hoping for, but there's still always a better choice. There's always at least a highest and better at some point in time. So breathing in every moment and becoming aware of it's a challenging time right now for so many reasons. And that is the way that's the truth. It's what we're dealing with right now. And yet I want to use this time to cultivate the God of my soul, the gold, the alchemy within me wants to turn everything that is base, heavy metal, turn it into the awareness of the God that is within me. And that's what's taking place in our world today. So I want to talk about 3 things of practical. I always like to make it practical, of how do we make this practical? How do we live out the golden rule? Well, there's 3 things that we can do right now. And the first one is to be willing to see the world from another perspective. The second is to listen with an open heart. And the third is to take sacred action. So to see the world from another's perspective. I'll never forget, I have a brother that's 14 years younger than I am, and his name is Samuel. And when Samuel was probably 2 or 3, I guess, we were on a swing out in the backyard. And we had forest woods behind our house in eastern North Carolina, and a storm, it was in the summertime, and this storm was coming up, and the dark clouds were coming in, and all of a sudden there was this loud boom of thunder. And I jumped on the swing, and he kind of jumped, and playing with my little brother, I said, "Sam, what was that?" And he said, "That was God killing elephants." and I'll never forget that. And I laughed, and I just thought, how sweet from a 2 or 3-year-old's eyes, what that must have felt like and looked like, God killing elephants. Well, we all have our unique interpretations and our unique perspective. And one of the most powerful things we can do is to be willing to see the world from another perspective. That is the whole golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I am so thankful that my mother always taught me, and whatever was going on, she would say, "Well, how would you feel if that was them?" I need to tell her that I appreciate that. I've used that my whole life. Well, how would you feel if that was them? And I think that way. I think about, how would I feel if I were George Floyd's family? How would I feel if I were that police officer's family? How would I feel if I were breaking windows? How would I feel if I was holding a sign and so frustrated that they were breaking windows? How would I feel? There's something very powerful that takes place when you're willing to see the world from another's perspective. In the Bible, in Unity, we look at the Bible as it's a very sacred text that is really the journey of Adam consciousness, the one who is outside and separate from Creator, to Christ consciousness and at-one-ment, the one that knows that I am one with all that is. We look at the Bible as this journey from that consciousness of separateness to an identity of one with God and one with all that is. And so the characters and the stories are there to help us see aspects of ourselves as a spiritual human being and to learn from that. So when we look at the story of Moses, now the name Moses literally means to draw out. And Moses, of course, is the great patriarch and the founder of 3 religions, basically. And Moses is a central figure, and what Moses' life represents is it's always drawing us out. It's drawing out that within us, which is calling that it's drawing out from within us that which knows that it is one with all that is. And so when you think about seeing the world from another perspective, I want to look at this through the life of Moses very quickly. When Moses was born, the Pharaoh was the ruler. The Pharaoh was considered God in that time. And so when Moses was born, the Pharaoh of Egypt put out a decree that all male babies of the Israelites, that all the Hebrews, the Jewish babies, all male babies were to be killed. Now that's horrific. And the reason that Pharaoh, the king, if you will, of Egypt did that is because the Jewish people were the slaves. They were the oppressed, and they were multiplying and growing, and Pharaoh was literally afraid that they were going to overtake, and so this was a way of keeping the people oppressed. And so he put out a legal decree that all males would be killed. So Moses is born a Jewish baby, born enslaved, and according to the law, he was supposed to be killed as soon as he was born. His mother refused to do that. And so what his mother did is she put Moses in a little basket, as the story goes, and took him to the river Nile and put this newborn baby in the river and asked Moses' big sister to hide in the bushes and to watch to see who got baby Moses and to make sure he was okay. And so his big sister hid in the bushes and watched baby Moses begin to cry in that little basket. And it says that a young woman heard the cry and went and took him. And the woman that found Moses was none other than Pharaoh's daughter. And so here you look at this. He's born into a system that would have killed him off as a baby. And yet he ends up being raised in the very household, the very palace of the Pharaoh, the one that would have killed him. So Moses grows up and is raised from birth, basically, as an Egyptian in the Pharaoh's household. But the mother that found baby Moses said, I need a woman to nurse this little baby. And so the little sister that had been hiding told Moses' mother where he was. And so as the story goes, Moses' real biological mother was able to pretend to be his nanny. And she nursed him and she took care of him. Now, his true identity was still kept a secret because he was young, he grew up as an Egyptian, but he knew his real mother, always just thinking that was his nanny. Until he got old enough. And it says when he got old enough, it says in Exodus 2:6, or Exodus 2:6 is about Pharaoh's daughter finding the baby. But then it says at a certain point when Moses grows up, his identity is delivered unto him. And when he realizes that he's actually Jewish, he has to begin to look at the world for the first time from another's perspective. And so he begins to go out and pay attention and see how the Egyptians, who he's always identified with, how are the Egyptians treating these Jewish people? And it made him so mad, it says he killed one of the people, one of the Egyptians who was mistreating somebody. He killed him and hid him in the sand. Yes, that's in the Bible. And as the story goes, that's what happened. And then somebody saw him and he's afraid. And that's the reason that he ran away. And it would take a burning bush to bring him back on the scene again. But he would eventually come back on the scene, would face the Pharaoh, and would say, let my people go. He had to see the world from another's perspective. You see, what Moses represents in all of us, that in order to draw out our spiritual vision, in order to draw out an integrated sense of our wholeness, integrity means that all parts are supporting the whole. In order to draw out an authentic, integral expression of our wholeness, we must be willing to see from another's perspective. And Moses represents that all of us have that within us, that we each share identity with one another. It doesn't matter so much the household you were born in. Can you love in bigger circles? Can you see the face of God in bigger and more diverse faces? So the first step is to see the world from another's perspective. The question I want to ask you to think about this week, specifically when we're asking to see the world from another's perspective, is consider this. Right now, would you want to be a black mother of teenage boys? Whether you're a man or a woman, I ask you to really think about that. Would you want to be a black mother of black teenage sons today? What kind of fear rises up within you? What kind of thoughts do you begin to think? And to be willing to say, I don't even know what I don't even know, because I can still only imagine that from where I stand. So to be willing to see the world from another's perspective. The second thing that is so powerful is that we listen. In April of 2019, Kyle Korver is an NBA, he's a basketball player for the Cavalier team. And unsolicited last April 2019, he wrote an article titled Privilege, Racism and White People. And as a white basketball player, he said that it would have been unjust for him not to write something. Because even though the majority of his fellow basketball players were black and he was white, he said there was no denying the different realities that they dealt with. And this man, Kyle Korver, as he wrote this article, he said, we all have to hold each other accountable. I think the standard that we have to hold ourselves accountable is critical this moment, and hold ourselves higher than we've ever had. We have to be active. We have to actively support the causes of those who've been marginalized precisely because they've been marginalized. But the greatest thing we must do is listen and learn. Kyle Korver had began to listen and ask questions and learn, and it prompted him to do something that was very helpful. I've reached out to a number of our African American members in our community, and today I want to invite Vernetta Eliezer up. And I want us to take a few minutes to listen. I don't know what she's going to share, and it doesn't matter because I know it comes from her heart. But I want to hear you. I want to listen.
Thank you. I need to let you see me. I need to let you know that even though you often say how much you love my smile, I'm hurting inside. I need to feel all the way into the grief that I experience every day living black in America, instead of staying silent and having the anguish seep from my skin, cracking me open. I need to open up and speak. I need to speak that it bothers me that every day I ride by a gas station in my neighborhood where I don't feel comfortable even pumping gas or putting air in my tires. I hate that I have to consider the danger of COVID-19 while having the compelling need to take to the streets and scream, enough is enough. And I can't bear to see George Floyd or any other human being have a white cop's knee on their neck and hear them say, I can't breathe, while crying for their mama. I'm a mama, and I fear for my daughter and my granddaughter, and I ache that they have to carry the burden of being black in America. I need to spend time comforting myself the way I do hundreds of mostly white clients and supervisees that I wrap my heart around every year. I'm sick and tired of carrying the pain of the whiplashes of my great-great-grandmother. I have to remember I also carry the pride that drove my mother and my grandmother to clean white people's houses so that my uncle, brother, and I could go to college. I'm brokenhearted from watching my father and my brother succumb to the white man's knee on their necks, breaking them down way too young. As a child, I wanted to be somebody different. Oh, but now I found my way into this body, into this beautiful skin, into this time and space. I know what's mine to do, to stand up, speak up, and take this opportunity that I've been given to mentor others to do the same. I'm here. I may be weary, but I still have work to do. Thank you.
Wow. Vern, thank you for your willingness to share that. And I want to listen and listen more. As I was following, well, let me just back up a second. We're here to become our integrated whole self. And so a part of that is to be willing to see from another's perspective, to listen with an open heart. When King Solomon became ruler, the story says God said, King Solomon, you can have anything you want. What do you want? King Solomon said, I want an understanding heart. And God said, that's the highest possible thing one could ask for. An understanding heart, a heart of wisdom. And because of that, I'll give you everything else. I want an understanding heart, and I believe you do too. And it's okay to say, I don't know how to start. That's okay. We find our way through this together. So we consciously think about other people's perspective. We listen with an understanding heart. And the third is we take action. We stand up, we speak up, we show up. We put feet on our prayers. I was watching the ongoing memorial service on the site where George Floyd was murdered, and there was a story that's told by an attorney and co-founder of the National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama. It's Brian Stevenson. His memoir, Just Mercy, is made into a movie, and it's excellent. If you have not seen it, I highly encourage it, Just Mercy. But Stevenson told this story, and I want to share it with you. Stevenson said, we've been doing this thing where we have people go to the lynching sites. And we've told them to collect soil from the lynching site and put it in a jar. And then in our museum, we have hundreds of these jars of soil that were collected from the lynching sites. And we put the name of the lynching victim and the date. It's been powerful to give people the opportunity to do something tangible, something redemptive, something restorative. And people come and go to these places. Well, we had a middle-aged black woman come to one of our events. And she was nervous about going to a lynching site by herself. But after the meeting, she was sort of fired up. And so we gave her the jar, we gave her the memo, and she went out to the lynching site, which was in a pretty remote area. She got nervous, but she decided to do it, and she went to that place, and she was about to start digging when a truck drove by. There was a white man in the truck who slowed down and stared at her. And then she said the truck stopped and turned around and drove back, and the man stared at her some more. She said the white guy got out and started walking toward her, and he was very nervous. And Stevenson said, now we tell people that you don't have to explain what you're doing. You can just say you're getting dirt for your garden if you want to say that. And that's what she was intending to do. But when the white man walked up to her and said, what are you doing? She said, something got a hold of me. And I turned to that man And I said, I'm digging soil because this is where a black man was lynched in 1931, and I'm going to honor his life. And she said that she was so scared, she started digging real fast. And the man stood there, and I can't see. The man said, well, does that paper you have, does it talk about the lynching? And she said, yes, it does. And he said, can I read it? So she gave the man the paper, and he stood there reading while she was digging. And then he put the paper down, and he stunned her by asking, would it be okay if I helped you? She said the white man got on his knees. And he began putting dirt in the jar. And she said the next thing she knew, tears were flowing down her face. And he stopped and said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm upsetting you. And she said, no, no, no. You're blessing me. You're not upsetting me, sir. You're blessing me. And she wept as they put soil in the jar. And they got the jar almost full, and she noticed that the man slowed down and he started shaking. And she turned and looked and saw that the man had tears streaming down his face. And now she put her hand on his shoulder and said, are you all right? And that's when the man said, no. I'm just so worried that it might have been my grandparents that were involved in the lynching of this man. And they both sat there and cried. At the end, he stood up and said, I want to take a picture of you holding the jar. And she said, I want to take a picture of you holding the jar. And they both took pictures holding the jar. And she brought the man back with her to the lynching museum. And they put the jar on the exhibit together. Stevenson says, now, beautiful things don't always happen when you tell the truth about history. But when you try to look for redemption and restoration, beautiful things begin to emerge. We must commit to acts of redemption and restoration. I'm ready, and I believe you are too. We were born for this, my friends. You may not believe it, but I promise you, you and I were born for this, for such a time as this. This is perhaps our finest hour. And you may be a mess like I am right now, but that's okay. I want to share this song with you from Melanie DeMore. It says, I am sending you light. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I'm sending you light to hold you in love. I invite you to close your eyes and to realize that you are an expression of all that is, that all that you are Your very body, your being, your physicality is a physical expression of the one life. That you are mighty, holy streams embodied. That you are love here to be fully realized and expressed. And to open your ears and to open your heart, and with your eyes closed, I want you to hear this song as if it is the God of your being, the Holy Spirit of life, singing to you. Let it quicken the cells of your body. Let it quicken every aspect of your being. Receive this from the Creator to you. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. That must be our starting place, of feeling that love come from the greater source and come within. We must know and feel that love. We must feel that sense of wholeness. We must feel loved beyond measure. We must know that we are the likeness and image of God. We must know that we are love. And as we begin to embody and to know this, then we can turn to our brothers and our sisters. We can turn to those with whom we agree and with whom those we are adamantly opposed. We can turn to those that we would uplift, and we can turn to those that we would rather see imprisoned. And yet in the midst of sorting that all out, we can see beyond every mask and still offer up this truth that says, I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. So I invite you to bring into your awareness someone that you really want to send some light to. Don't overthink it, just someone you really want to send some light to. And now wherever you are, just sing with me. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. Sing it one more time. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. Would you play that just a minute, Richard? prayer to every heart that is a caring heart, to every heart that feels cut off. We offer this prayer that says, the light of God is wherever you are. We offer ourselves this prayer that says, I forgive myself for the ways that I've transgressed my own being. And I rise this new day on the wings of reconciliation, on the wings of renewal. And I receive that love, and I will do my best every day to send that love and to stand for that love. I am sending my light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending my light to hold you in love. Wow. Well, I don't know about you, but you know when you go to a good movie and you've laughed and you cried and you kind of feel like you've been beat up, but yet it feels good? That's how everybody around here is sniffling with tissues. There's only 5 of us in here, but we're like, holy cow. I want to thank you for hanging in here with us and for watching. I want to thank you for your love and your support. We have a video in just a moment of Ellen Winter, our board president, and her donkeys that we're falling in love with, and it just wouldn't be a Sunday service if we didn't end with Kat and our band. But I want to share just a few things with you in closing. First of all, our goal is to be reopened with a much limited capacity the first Sunday in July. However, it is blessed are the flexible, for they shall never be bent out of shape. We are watching and want to make sure that it is as safe as possible, so just stay tuned for that. Secondly, I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support, your cards, your letters. I'm going to share a couple of things here in a minute. It just means so much, and I know some people are doing financially well and some people are not right now, and all we're asking is to do what you can do, and we believe that will continue to sustain us through this time, and so far so good. I want to thank you for that. I also want to let you know some exciting news. Our contract is signed with Carolina Specialty Construction. They will be beginning very soon, and I had someone reach out to me a couple of weeks ago that I've been in some conversation with, and they noticed that we came just shy of our $600,000 goal, and so they wrote a check last week for $10,000 to bring us up to our $600,000. So I want to thank you for those pledges, and thanks to those that are continuing to give, because we are getting ready to raise this roof and get that roof outside, because, hey, we may be meeting outside soon. Hopefully, we'll see. I also wanted to just share with you, do a little shout out to the family of Greg, Stephanie, and Ashley. They said when we attended Unity of Teaneck, they moved to another town. Anyway, they've been looking for a Unity church for a while now. They discovered us online. They love the music and all things about the service. They said the camaraderie of the congregation is evident even from a distance. They've decided to make Unity of the Blue Ridge their home. They said, we're way up here in New Jersey, so we can't be with you guys on Sunday. However, I will be in front of my television, meditating, praying, and listening to your sermons at 11 a.m. So Greg, Stephanie, and Ashley, it's good to have you joining us. And then last but not least, another new individual who's going to be joining us, Craig, and his wife is an author, and he has graciously, whenever we do come back, he's giving all of you a free copy of his book, I Am God in Disguise, and So Are You. So there's just so many wonderful blessings coming in, and I want to thank you. Thank you for your extended time today. We appreciate your support. And I'm going to send you off to our donkeys and then to close out with Kat. Blessings for a beautiful week.
Hi, I'm Ellen Winter, and people often ask why we keep donkeys. And this poem, which is author unknown, is a good explanation of why donkeys. Why we keep a donkey? when your day seems out of balance and so many things go wrong, when the people fight around you and the day drags on and on, when parents act like children and everything goes wonky, go out into the pasture, wrap your arms around your donkey. His gentle breath enfolds you. He watches with those eyes. He does not have his PhD, but he is oh so wise. Her head rests on your shoulder. You hold her very tight. She puts your world in balance and makes it seem all right. Your tears, they soon stop flowing. The tension now has eased. The stress, it has been lifted. You are quietly at peace. So when you need respite from the turmoil in your day, the best therapy ever is out there eating hay.
Every day we're born again to create this world we live in. So now let's claim our good, speak our word, and release it to the universe. Right here is where we take a stand. Compassion for our fellow man. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. All together holding hand to hand. Sing our love across this wonderland. Right here we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Every day is filled with wonder by the glory from the silent thunder unfolding from down under. Oh, coming from down under. Right here we're taking a stand. Compassion for our fellow man. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Oh, it's a new day. Oh, it's a new day. All together hand in hand. It's a new day. Oh, it's a new day. Oh, Lord, it's a new day. All together hand in hand. Singing across this wonderland. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Oh, it's a new day. Oh, it's a new day. Right here we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Sing it with me. Oh, it's a new day. Let me hear you now.
Oh, it's a new day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a new day.
It is a new day. Oh, it's a new day.